Sundays, we've been covering the book of James pretty hard. Book of James, and that's where we're going to be at this morning. If you got your Bibles, you can go ahead and turn over there to the book of James. It's right after the book of Hebrews. And we're going to be in James chapter 3 this morning. And I'm going to take us through the whole chapter of chapter 3. This is the title of this one, will be Pressure Points, because that's kind of, the book of James is a book that can be related to as pressure points. And because we're all hit these moments in our life when we feel pressured to do something, or pressured to fall into certain things, pressure to give up, pressure to kind of just turn our back and walk away. This morning is pressure points on the power of words. Now I'm going to start out this morning and I'm going to say a phrase, and I want you all to finish it for me. It's a common phrase. I'll give you the first few words, and you finish the statement. Loose lips sink what? Loose lips sink ships. For the past few Sundays, we've been focusing on this. We covered suffering. We covered trials and tribulations. We covered the topic of mercy last week. This morning, I'm going to be hitting hard on the power of words, or the power of the tongue. The power of the tongue. I'm pretty sure we can all agree that our words in general can be quite powerful on a regular basis. They can be quite powerful. You can sway somebody, you can push someone away, you can draw someone to you, or you can push them away. They are powerful, and they hold a lasting effect on our audience. Our words can build someone up, or our words can tear someone down. Our words can bring comfort, or they can bring pain. Our words can bring peace, or they can rage war. Matthew chapter 12:34, Christ says this, brood of vipers, how can you being evil speak good things? For out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. Time and time again, the Scriptures address the tongue. James himself devotes an entire chapter in his book, and the entire chapter on controlling the tongue. We consider the words of Jesus in Matthew 12:34. We see why the tongue is given such extensive treatment, why it's given such extensive focus. How we handle the tongue is a great indicator of our hearts before God. Aesop shares a helpful fable to illustrate a point. Our words give us away. In James chapter 3, 1-18, we see the tongue has power. It's by nature very hypocritical. It can be hypocritical by nature. And that it can only be transformed from above. I don't know of anyone here who has never had a slip of the tongue. I don't know of anyone who's never had that slip of the tongue. We've all had, every one of us here are guilty of it. Everybody here that has ever lived is guilty of it at some point in time. We have to be careful when it comes to the tongue. We have to be careful. We can either define the tongue, define it, or we can allow the tongue to define us or control us. Which leads to our first point this morning. Number one, we must know the power of the tongue. James chapter 3, verses 1-8 says this, my brethren, let not many of you become teachers, knowing that we all shall receive a stricter judgment. For we all stumble in many things. If anyone does not stumble in a word, he is a perfect man, able also to bridle his whole body. Indeed, we put bits in horses' mouths, that they may obey us, and we turn their whole body. Look also at ships, although they are great and they are large, they are driven by fierce winds. They are turned by a very small rudder, wherever the pilot desires. Even so, the tongue is a little member and boasts in great things. See how how great a force a little fire kindles. And the tongue is a fire, a world of iniquity. The tongue is so set among our members that it defiles the whole body and sets on fire the course of nature. And it is set on fire by hell. For every kind of beast and bird and reptile and creature of the sea is tamed, and has been tamed by mankind. But no man can tame the tongue. It is an unruly evil, full of deadly poison. In most cases, people like to make their presence known. And that's the natural for us. We like to be seen by someone. We like to make our presence known every now and then. We like that pat on the back that we get. That's pretty much our nature. That's people, human beings by nature. We like to be acknowledged. We like to be seen. We like to be known. We like to be heard. We as people in general, by nature, don't like to be left out or go unnoticed. We like to be noticed. We don't like to be left out. It's like a child on the playground. When you're growing up, they're picking teams. Yeah, I want you on my team. I want you on my team. Then you have the one that's over here that's left out. Because they might not be good at that sport. They might not be good in that area. No one likes to be left out. Everybody likes to be chosen or be picked. Everybody likes to be recognized. We also like to be included or have our say in things. We don't like to be left out of the loop. We like to have our say in things. We don't like to go unnoticed. We want to feel important and able to make a difference in someone's life, or the place that we're in our worship, or in the way they're living their life. We like to make a difference on someone in some form or fashion. And what better way to do that? What better way to make a difference in someone's life than become a Christian teacher? To plant the seeds. Perhaps here on Sunday mornings, perhaps preaching a message or a sermon. What better way to impact someone's life than planting the seed of the gospel into their hearts? Let me add that it doesn't have to be here in these walls to teach someone about God. It does not have to be here at church, just here at church on Sunday mornings. You know, when we leave this church, you're entering a battlefield because we as Christians are at war. And you don't have to go too far to see it. You don't have to travel too far down the road to see it. You don't have to go too far into a convenience store to see it. You don't have to flip your TV on and see on the local news to see that we are at war. We're at war with Satan and his evil forces daily in our lives. All the time. We're told to put on our armor. Why? Because we are at war. You don't have to go far to see such things. We don't have to go far to see the wickedness around us. After all, didn't Christ himself say to go and preach the gospel to every creature? I think so. Yeah. He said that. Mark chapter 16, 14 through 16 says this. Later he appeared to the 11, and they sat at the table, and he rebuked their unbelief and hardness of heart, because they did not believe those who had seen him after he had risen. And he said to them, go into all the world, preach the gospel to every creature. He who believes and is baptized will be saved, but he who does not believe will be condemned. Now we have James here telling us that not many of us become teachers. So I ask you this morning, is the Bible being contradictory? No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. It's not. James is giving us a warning that if we do become a teacher, if we do decide to teach someone, or become a teacher or a worker, a preacher, we must remember that we will be held accountable for every word we preach. We're going to be held accountable for what we preach and what we teach. That is why it is so vital in your Christian walk to study, study, study. Study to show thyself approved. So we can be prepared. If you notice, James points out that the tongue is like a set of bits in a horse's mouth, or like the rudder on a ship. It can manipulate where the horse or the vessel goes. The same can be said for the tongue. You can sway someone with your words, to change their mind. You can sway them away, push them away with your words. You can manipulate them. We are to make sure that we know what we're talking about, rather than just getting up on our soapbox and saying a bunch of words. You have to have knowledge of what you're talking about before you get up and preach about it, or talk about it, or try to teach about it. That's why you have to study. That way, if somebody has a question, you say, you know what, I answer for that. But you know what? I've had questions asked to me that I don't have the answer for. But I can say, give me some time and I'll get back with you. We have to be cautious. We have to be cautious. Because you can either push someone away, or you can push them or pull them to by your teachings. So number 1A, control the tongue, control the man. Control the tongue, control the man. James argues from the greater to the lesser in verse 2. If one can control their tongue, then they will be able to control the rest of the body. If one man can control the tongue, he can control his whole body. We see this illustrated by the horse. The bits in the mouth. How the bits control the horse. Because why? How does the bit work? It puts pressure on the tongue. Now the horse could control the tongue or put pressure in it. He wouldn't want to turn. He would go the way he wanted to go. But since he cannot control that tongue, he has to turn where it goes. The same way with the ship. Because the ship has not power over the rudder, it cannot control where it goes. So it has to follow the rudder. It has to follow the rudder. That's illustrated in verse 4. 1B, big things can come from the tiny tongue. Big things can come from a tiny tongue. We see that illustrated by a wildfire in verse 5 of James chapter 3. It doesn't take much, and we see this about every fall in our area here. You don't have to, when you open the door sometimes in the fall, and they have the burning man in, why? Because everything is so dry, a little spark can bring up a great fire. One little tiny spark can burn a multitude of forest flames. So, big things can come from a tiny thing. Big things can come from a tiny thing. Words can build someone up. Your words can build someone up, or you can tear them down. You can tear them down with your words. Words can build or they can destroy. Better than anything else, the tongue displays the state of our hearts. It displays what kind of person you are by how you talk. And I'll be honest with you. Me and Betty's the same way. If you could take entertainment is the worst. You can take what would have the makings of a good movie and entertainment. And then when the foul language comes one right after another, boom, it destroys the whole thing. It can ruin the whole movie. Or you come up to somebody and say, hey, you know what, they're pleasing to talk to. And you're there talking to them, and all of a sudden the language starts. Every other word says, you know what, there's no sense in that. I've always been told that's a lack of intelligence or a lack of vocabulary by throwing in words such as that. They define the person. They can define them. The tongue displays our hearts. Humanity alone cannot control the tongue. When we're alone, you cannot control your tongue on your own, and I can't control mine on my own. You have to have help controlling the tongue. And when you focus your thighs, your minds, and your hearts on things above, instead of things here on this earth, you'll be able to control your tongue more. Why? Because you're drawing closer to Christ in all you do. And you realize, hey, my actions reflect Him. It can reflect Him and have an impact on how someone perceives Him. So it helps you control. We can't control the tongue on our own. We need help in doing so. It is an unruly evil, full of deadly poison, as James described it. It's powerful. Our tongue is very powerful. And it's something we need help tame. After hearing this message from James, if he was to stop his writings right here, if James would say, hey, you know what, this is it. And I'm going to leave you right there and I'm not going to tell you nothing else. It'd be pretty gloomy, wouldn't it? Because all we've seen here is gloom. It'd be pretty gloomy. Why? Because all he's talking about is how, and if you listen up to this point, you would think, well, daggone, I have no hope. I don't have any hope. Because I can't control this tongue. He tells me I can't control it. And it's full of deadly poison. So I would have no hope. If we just ended it right there, it would seem that we would have no hope. It would seem that we'd all be infected. And it would definitely be wrenching to us. It would be pretty tough, if you'd ask me, because up until this point, it seems that one would have no hope. It would seem that we, as Christians, would have no way of ridding ourselves from the poison that has infected our lives. But you know what? Thankfully, James carries on with a message here. James carries on with his message of hope. So, we do have help during this time in this difficult task of taming the tongue. This help is offered to everyone who is willing to accept it. Because if you don't accept it, it's not going to do no good. You have to be willing to say, you know what, I need to do this, and I have to have help with it, but you have to be willing to accept the help. It's like being out here working, and someone can walk by and you see you're struggling, lifting or carrying something. Let's say, hey, let me help you with that, let me help you with that. You say, no, I've got it. You want to be a big burly man, tough man? I can do it, I don't need no help, I can handle it. When really, if you'd had the help, it wouldn't have took near as long. And I've always heard that many hands make light work. Yep. If you have help, it's always great to have help. And I've been told by a very wise man, never turn down help. Never turn down. And usually if you get someone offers to help you, you take them up on their offer, chances are they probably won't come back. It's sad to say because they're like, I better not ask him, he's going to put me to work. But many hands make light work. When you have help with a difficult task, it makes it a lot easier. It makes the load easier. And that help is offered to everyone who's willing to accept it. And thankfully, we aren't left alone to tackle this feat. Number 2, we must know the hypocrisy of the tongue. We must know the hypocrisy of the tongue. James chapter 3, verses 9 through 12 tells us this. With it we bless our God and Father, and with it we curse men who have been made in the similitude of God. Out of the same mouth proceed blessing and cursing. My brethren, these things ought not be so. Does a spring send forth fresh water and bitter from the same opening? Can a fig, my brethren, bear olives, or a grapevine bear figs? Thus no spring yields both salt and fresh water. We must be careful when it comes to what flows out of our mouths. You have to be careful with what comes or what flows out of your mouth, especially around little children. Because their minds at this age are like a sponge. Anything you say can and will be used against you. They soak it up and then they repeat it. I was having problems out of my vehicle the other day, and I was coming up the hill, I could not get it to go on four-wheel drive at all. It would sit there and it would come up and say service four-wheel drive. And you really had to have four-wheel drive to get up my hill. Okay? Because it's like real loose rock and clay. And it was wet, so it was slick. And I had the awfulest time getting my vehicle in four-wheel drive. I've got it fixed now. But James Matthew was in the back seat. And I hit it 2 or 3 times, and my wife's cousin was sitting there going, hey, you need to put that thing in four-wheel drive. I said, well, so the four-wheel drive's not working. So I pulled up and it spin out, and I had to back down. I've done this 3 or 4 times. He said, man, that thing acts like it ain't even in four-wheel drive. I said, it's not four-wheel drive. The four-wheel drive's tore up. And I was getting aggravated. I mean, I was mad anyway because I couldn't get the vehicle up there. I finally got up the hill, and when the last time I got up the hill, I said, stupid piece of junk. I finally got up there and got out of it. But Betty goes to get James Matthew out of the back seat, and he goes, stupid piece of junk, and walks over and kicks the car. So you have to be cautious of what flows out of your mouth. You have to be cautious. We must be careful when it comes to what flows out of our mouths. We have to be cautious at all times. Our words and bridling our tongue, when we bridle our tongues with our words, your actions or your words can push someone away from Christ, or they can lead you to Christ. When we are preaching one thing, but we're doing something totally different and not walking the walk or the talk that we're preaching, that is being a hypocrite, or that's a form of hypocrisy. We have to be cautious. We have to be cautious. Christ, in His words, has a lot of words and a lot of things He said about being hypocritical. Christ was not a big fan of being a hypocrite. He had some very harsh words to speak to the Pharisees and the Sadducees. And all those were being hypocritical because of their teachings. They wanted to twist and manipulate the law so it would benefit them. He had some harsh words to say for them because of their hypocrisy and how He felt about them. His words were not pleasant at all. Things that speak volumes to us today. Matthew chapter 23, verse 27. Woe to you, scribes, Pharisees, hypocrites! For you are like whitewashed tombs, which indeed appear beautiful outwardly, but on the inside are full of dead men's bones and uncleanness. If you take into account and add all this up, you can notice that their efforts were all done in vain. What they were doing was vanity. It was all done in vain. They were doing nothing but reaping up judgment upon themselves. And I pray that it's not what we're doing today as a church. I pray we're not doing that today, turning people away by how we were living our lives outside these walls. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Someone ought to be able to see that you're a Christian by the way you live your lives before they know you're a Christian. Someone should be able to see Christ in your life before they find out that you go to church, by the way you act outside of these walls. James is not saying that they are unbelievers because of their hypocrisy. Notice he says this, he calls them brothers. Brothers. James is saying that with much duplicity is inconsistent with a life redeemed by Christ. It's inconsistent. Believers ought to be growing more consistent in Christ and how they're living their lives. When consistent with their speech, where it backs up, with their talk, backs up their walk. That's how we should be doing. We must know the source, number 3. We must know the source of the tongue's redemption. Redeemed speech only comes from godly wisdom, being imparted to us. Worldly wisdom will lead to a tongue infused with bitterness that will show itself through bragging and a denial of the truth. Godly wisdom will lead to pure and peaceable speech. James chapter 3, 13 through 18 says this. Who is wise and understanding among you? Let him show by good conduct that his works are done with meekness of wisdom. But if you have bitter envy and self-seeking in your hearts, do not boast and lie against the truth. This wisdom does not descend from above, but is earthly, sensual, and demonic. For where envy and self-seeking exist, confusion and every evil thing are there. But the wisdom that is from above is first pure and peaceful, gentle, willing to yield, full of mercy and good fruits, without partiality and without hypocrisy. Now the fruit of righteousness is sown in peace by those who make peace.
Chris, back that up.
You know, our wisdom comes from above. That's the only place you can find wisdom. That's the only place. It's from God our Father. The only place we can find wisdom and true wisdom is from above. So how do we get that wisdom? How do we get that wisdom from above? Well, it's been the key thing you've got to study. You have to know what wisdom is, where the source of it comes from. And after all, we know what the source of it comes from. Because remember Solomon, what did he could ask for anything he wanted to ask for. He asked God, he asked God for wisdom. And that was given to him. His wisdom was given to him. That's why Solomon was known as the wisest man to ever live. But we are not to confuse wisdom with godliness. We have to be cautious. Colossians chapter 3, 5 through 11 says this. Therefore, put to death your members, which are on the earth, fornication, uncleanness, passion, evil desire, covetousness, which is idolatry. Because of these things, the wrath of God is coming upon the sons of disobedience, in which you yourselves once walked, when you lived in them. But you yourselves put off these things, these anger, wrath, malice, blasphemy, filthy language out of your mouth. Do not lie to one another, since you have put off the old man with his deeds, and have put on the new man with his renewed in knowledge, according to the image of him who created him, where there is neither Greek nor Jew, circumcised nor uncircumcised, barbarian, Scythian, slave nor free, but Christ is all and in all. We are to be in the world, but not to become part of the world. The world's full of wickedness. We have been set apart from the world. we learned about this morning, a city set on a hill cannot be hidden. It cannot be. We should not try to hide ourselves from the world, because we were shining the light to the world. But when we're sitting on the hill, our light shines for all to see. When you're willing to shine it for everyone, not being partial to one or the other. We're to be in the world, not become on the world, become of the world. We're called to set our minds on things above, not on things of this world. This world is not our home, we're just passing through. Our home's eternal in glory with God. That's where He desires for all men to go, is in home in heaven with Him. 3b, godly wisdom comes from above. Godly wisdom comes from above. James 3:17 through 18 tells us this. But the wisdom that's from above is first pure, then peaceful and gentle, willing to yield, full of mercy and good fruits, without partiality, without hypocrisy. Now the fruit of righteousness is sown in peace by those who make peace. We are to set our minds on things above, not on things of this earth. We will grow, and you can't help but grow closer to God when you do so. You can't help but grow closer to God during these times. When you focus on Him daily. When you focus on Him more and less on the things of this earth, you're able to see just how much He's truly blessed you with. How He's had His hands right in the middle of your life, manipulating them. Not really manipulating, but placing things there that you needed to make. Just in the nick of time, He sent someone there to give you a pat on the back. Just in the nick of time, He has someone to say, you know what, you need help with that. I believe, personally, now this is my personal opinion, I believe that we do have angels among us. I believe that. They may not be physically with their big wings shining bright, but I believe that God sends people in our paths, puts them there when we need them the most, to help us through the difficult moments of life. I believe that. I believe that. The wisdom that's from above is first pure, peaceful, gentle, willing to yield, full of mercy and good fruits, without partiality and hypocrisy. And when we set our minds on things above, we grow closer to God. He's blessed you with more than we ever deserve. Even more that you're able to gain with a fraction of His knowledge by works. He's blessed you with so much more than you ever imagined. Through the knowledge of His wisdom, His great love for you. This is characterized by all that is pure and peaceful and leads to peace. This type of wisdom only comes from God's redeeming grace. That's the only source of it. This type of wisdom and speech that governs our life and displays the work of God in our hearts. Where our speech and wisdom is worldly, we see that the earthly, unspiritual, and demonic governing authority. Where our speech and wisdom is characterized by purity and peace, we see that something from above has taken root and is spreading through our lives. When you focus on God. When you focus on Him. So in conclusion this morning, our speech and the type of wisdom that governs our lives displays the state of our heart. What does your tongue reveal about your heart? Well, according to Scripture, it reveals everything about you. Because out of the heart the tongue speaks. It reveals who you are. Are you increasingly maturing in your speech? Or do you find your tongue a restless evil that is full of deadly poison? What does your tongue reveal about you? Or do you find that you cannot control the tongue? The solution for us is to control the tongue, or work in controlling our tongue, but we can't do it. James has taught us that apart from Christ, such as an exhortation or such a task is impossible. Redeemed speech and wisdom only come from the work of the Redeemer. So let us cast ourselves on the mercy of our Redeemer and pray that He will continue His work of overthrowing the demonic words that occasionally flow out of our mouths. There's only one way you can get help. There's only one hope. There's only one way you can receive it. And the hope you need during these difficult times, when these evil thoughts flood our minds and our hearts, there's only one cure for that sin sickness, and that plagues us. And that's through our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. The Bible tells us He is the way, the truth, and the life. No man comes to the Father except through me. There's only one way. It's not a road of many ways. Broad is the path that leads to destruction, but straight and narrow is the way. It's life. You know, Christ came, just as we learned about in our Sunday school lesson, talking of coming, that the time that will come. And for everybody who's here, and whether we live long enough to see it in this life physically, we're all going to see it. There's going to be a day that this earth is no longer going to be in existence. Christ will shall descend with the shout of the voice of the archangel. Shall put one foot in the sand, one foot on dry ground. Say it is done. Time shall be no more. The dead in Christ will rise. Those who remain be caught up with them in the clouds. Where will you be when that day comes? Will you be caught up with Him in the clouds? Or not? The only way to receive salvation, to receive the grace needed for help in taming the tongue, that's to believe that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of the living God. Because if you don't have faith that He is you got a lot bigger problems than what you're facing right now. You have to believe that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of the living God. You must be willing to come forward repenting of your sins, saying, you know what, I've lived a sinful life, and I need to get back on the right and the straight and narrow path. Repenting of that, say, I'm going to step away from all that. You have to come forward and confess your faith in Christ. Jesus says, He who confesses me before men, Him will I confess before my Father who is in heaven. Then you have to be washed in the water of very baptism, where you come in contact with the blood of Christ that cleanses you from the sin that you have in your life. And as you're raised to walk in newness of life, you're sin-free, you receive the gift of the indwelling of the Holy Spirit. Remain faithful in the death, and He'll give you a crown of life. Now, if you're not a Christian, I urge you to come as we stand and sing. Remember to tame your tongue this week, and you're entering your battlefield as we leave this building. Come forward, stand and sing.